The battle for EDGE2 starts in Mobile at the Reese Senior Bowl next week. And Nic Scourton, we're going to tell you how Nic Scourton from Texas A&M can separate himself from the pack. This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an offensive draft analyst over at Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is the director of scouting over at the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. Guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. We appreciate y'all for tuning in with us and being our everydayers. We got a fun show. We're getting into the edge rushers from the Senior Bowl. Nic Scourton, is he a true top 15 prospect? We're going to get into that. Princely Umanmielen from Ole Miss. And then Kyle Kennard, is he a DPR? Is he a full-time starter? We can get into all of that. But before that, guys, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Keith, Nic Scourton, this kid, he's like 20 years old, I think. He's super young. It's crazy, Keith. When I looked at his body type, he kind of reminds me. I'm not saying this is who he is, so guys, don't even quote me on this. But he reminds me of Dwight Freeney from a build standpoint. You know what I mean? He reminds me of Dwight Freeney. Then that spin move, that he has the nastiest spin move in the draft from the edge rusher position. That doesn't change. That makes it even more of a Dwight Freeney type of comp. But when you look at Nic Scourton, Keith, the Senior Bowl, I think for him is going to be really big. 6'4", 285. We know that Abdul Carter is edge one for everybody, right? But there's like a cluster of edge defenders and prospects in this class where we're trying to sort some stuff out. Like, who's the true number 2 and number 3, right? And I think for him, he has a chance to elevate himself and kind of take a stranglehold over one of those top 3 spots in this draft class. And what you think about the Carolina Panthers needing an edge, they won 2 of their last 3 games. And that knocked them right out of the Abdul Carter range for the most part. They knocked him down to 8. And so for them, they're going to be looking at that next available edge rusher because they need a guy. They gave up 539 points allowed this year, which is like the most since like the 1930s or something crazy like that. Their defense was terrible. So for a team like that and different teams that need to improve edge rush, 6'4", 285 pounds, Nic Scourton out of Texas A&M, Keith, what does he need to do for you down in Mobile to solidify maybe is that edge 2 in a loaded kind of cluster edge group?
Yeah, I want to see the pure pass rush ability, right? I mean, because if you go off of, and we always talk about this, Texas A&M, right? And what they do with their defensive lineman, you're talking about muddying up the evaluation. So last year when he was at Purdue, right, this is a guy that had 10 sacks, right? Double-digit sack guy, forced fumble, right? You can see all of the upside inside of that. This year, that's cut in half, 5 sacks, right? And so what I want to see from him is, okay, what is the consistency, rep in and rep out as far as even in one-on-ones, right? Going against an offensive tackle, what is your threshold to be able to beat guys around the edge, right? Like, do you have an A trait? Do you have an A quality to yourself to be able to win? Being able to trigger power is a huge thing. I go back to the conversation with Jared Verse versus Laiatu Latu. The reason I got on this podcast, DP, and I said, Jared Verse is my number 1. I said, because you better be able to have some power to you. You better be able to collapse the pocket. And I seen that from Jared Verse. Laiatu Latu, I'm not knocking it. The hand stuff, all that's fine and good, right? But you better be able to, like, you're moving a 300-pound man. You better have power in your hands and be able to collapse the pocket. I want to see his true speed to power conversions, right? Whether that's working a long arm and collapsing the pocket, because at 280, 290, the thing is this, that if I'm giving up something on one end, right, and maybe that's the elite level speed, then the power has to be overwhelming so that I can know that, like, that's your go-to, that's your A trait. And you mentioned Dwight Freeney, right? But there's other big bodied edge rushers. You think about a Cam Jordan, you think about a Trey Hendrickson, right? So the thing is how do you win consistently? And that's what I want to see. Like, what is his go-to move that I say, you know what, that's very difficult to stop for most offensive tackles in the NFL?
Yeah, and that's something that I jotted down. I watched him. His bull rush is good. Like, he has good power and arm length with the bull rush. It's what are the counters? Like, because when you do face, I don't think his power is like Jared Verse is just a grown man. You know what I mean? Like, to see him go from like, and it's crazy because I tweeted this out. People thought his power in the bull rushes worked because he was like a little bit of an older prospect in college.
What does that have
like,
to do anything? If you're like certain things that I'm just not understanding with the age dynamic, right? Like the age of somebody, does that not, like, strength is strength? So if you're 25 years old and you bench 300 pounds, it's not that good because you're not 23 years old benching 300 pounds.
I think it's when guys are it's a old like drafting thing where they look at the older prospects and like, okay, you've reached your growth. Like, if you're 23, 24 years old, you reach your grown man body, your grown man strength, and you're facing a 19-year-old tackle who's a freshman. You're going to physically dominate him for the most part, which it happens, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it happens the other way too, where that tackle is 23, the edge rusher is 23, and he still got dominated. So it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? In the grand scheme of things, does that power translate to the league? It has. Jared Verse's power, 100. He put 300-pound grown men in the league on their butts. Like, it still happened. I wouldn't say Nic Scourton has that type of power, but he does have a good bull rush. I want to see him just show us what plan you have.
Yeah, you know what the word is, DP? It's explosiveness, right? It's the reason why when you're in the gym and they tell you to do the hang cleans, the power cleans, right, the snatches, because what they're saying is that can you be able to transition the strength to a quick movement, right? Like that's and listen, don't peg me for no strength and conditioning coach, right? But this is what I was told, right? This is just what I was told.
Keith will get you right, guys. Keith will get you right.
Just to be able to transition these things, right, quickly. Like, because it's one thing to go with a slow bench press, right? And you're laying down, you're on your back, and you're just pushing the weight up slowly, right? Versus being able to throw this weight around quickly in a controlled manner. And I think that's when you even see like the Saquon Barkleys and you see all these guys and what is like, oh man, what are they hang cleaning? What are they power cleaning, right? And it's because they're able to transition and throw this weight around in an explosive manner. I think with Nick, and that's why I'm agreeing with you, is it an explosive manner or is this a slow burn type of process, right? Like, can you quickly demolish this guy in his 1.5, 2 seconds and then work into the quarterback? Or is this bull rush a 3-second collapse the pocket, slow process, slow burn, and then hope that the quarterback didn't get rid of the football?
Yeah, I think that the hand usage and the use of hands for him is going to be big. You know what I mean? Just against this is a good offensive line group for the most part. We're going to have down in Mobile as well. So I think for him, like you said, just what do you bring to the table outside of your whatever that best trait of it, if it's power, and I think that might be his best thing is his power. What do you have outside of that? What quick twitch moves? What, like Marcus Imbo, and you got Johnny Cornelius, you got Josh Connolly is going to be down there. Emory Jones, Ariante Ursary is going to be there. Like, yeah, you're going to have some powerful dudes down there in Mobile, man, that you just can't expect to run through their chest and get to the quarterback. I mean, this not comparing it to his apples to oranges, but like watching Jermaine Johnson, like that was probably one of the most impressive edge rush Senior Bowls I have seen, Keith. Like, you know what I mean? Even for just studying it on tape after, the tape release after we got from practice and just watching that process of how quickly he won, whether it was the outside shoulder, selling the outside, working inside, catching guys off guard and converting speed to power and bull rushing. He had it all. Like, you know what I mean? That's why he was a first round pick. He had everything and he did everything down in Mobile. That's my main thing with but with Nic Scourton is when you face a guy like an Ariante Ursary, where his game is power, his hand strength, his anchor. Then when a guy can drop their anchor and they stalwart that first rush, what's your plan the next time you see him? Right? Like, okay, that bull rush didn't work for me. Do I have that double hand swipe and flip the hips in corner? Do I have we know he got the spin. You know what I mean? But again, part of setting up that spin, Keith, is the vertical explosiveness, exploding off the ball, threatening that outside or inside arc, and making the guys overset, change their weight distribution. Now you can spin off of it as a counter. The counters are going to be big. The one-on-ones for him, like we talked about with the receivers and corners on yesterday's pod and stuff like that, Keith, the one-on-ones for Nic Scourton are going to be major to really help to either hurt. It's either going to help or hurt his draft stock overall.
No, I agree 100%. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he wins around the edge too. Like if he can use his pure speed to be able to, and just turn the corner, dip and rip and get around the edge. So DP, let's go down to Ole Miss, man. We're staying in this is an all SEC edge rush podcast, DP.
I did this just for you, Keith.
I didn't put this together. So
I did this just for you, man.
There's a lot of talent there talking about the Big Ten took over. The Big Ten didn't take over. All right, let's keep this thing going. We are going down to Ole Miss, man, and we're going to talk about edge rusher from Ole Miss, Princely Umanmielen, coming up next.
It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where PrizePicks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, PrizePicks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With PrizePicks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns. And for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money, you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. And whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. I've been playing for a while, and I love it. I've been having a blast. This week has a free pick. For the NFC Championship game, Jaden Daniels only needs one passing yard for you to win one square. Here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Princely Umanmielen, Keith, 6'4", 255, transferred from Florida to Ole Miss, and he was one of the guys that helped change that team and that defense overall to being one of the better SEC. Him and Walter Nolan did a great job for Lane Kiffin, down there at Ole Miss. Keith, I'm looking forward to seeing him in Mobile. I think and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're both on the same page with this. I think he's a late first round type of guy. Like, I think I've done mocks. I think you did a mock. I think you might have put him in one of your late first round mocks. I know we talked about him to like we paired him to Detroit with Aiden Hutchinson and different things like that. When I look at Princely, first, he's got a good first step. The numbers for him this year were just ridiculous, man. Like 11 sacks, 16 QB hits, 28 hurries. Keith, his pass rush win rate is 22.8. It jumps up to 31.7 on true dropback sets. I think this guy has an opportunity to absolutely dominate one-on-ones just because of his natural ability to just get around the edge to work. He's got a good speed to power conversion, in my opinion. He might be, out of all these edge rushes, he might be the one we're talking about on today's show. He might be the most advanced guy to just know how he's going to win, be calculated with it, and win the way he plans on winning, whether it's outside shoulder, working back inside, going through the chest of the offensive tackles. And I think it was it the Georgia game where he was like absolutely dominant in that game? I believe it was. It might have been the Georgia game. Yeah, it was the Georgia game. I think so.
It was Georgia, yeah.
Yeah, he dominated Georgia's offensive line. 2 hurries, 2 QB hits, 2 sacks, and he had a forced fumble in that game as well. Keith, I think he's got a chance to not move himself in the first round, at least not for me. I think he's got a chance to stamp himself as a back end of the first round guy for those teams. Like I said, Detroit, the Baltimore Ravens needing a go-to edge rusher because they don't have one right now. Like those teams that need that, yeah, Princely Umanmielen, like this is the guy that you need to watch down in Mobile.
Yeah, DP, and he's a guy that's consistently gotten better, right? You look at 2022, 4.5 sacks, 2023, 7 sacks, 2024, 10 sacks, right? 10.5 sacks, I'm sorry. So year over year, he's gotten better. And I think that he is one of the more high-end pass rushers right now, right? I think that if I had to compare, speed rushers, right? Like, let's compare him.
Mm-hmm.
Like him versus James Pierce. I think James Pierce probably his 0 to 100 may be quicker, right? Like the first step may be quicker, but I think Princely is the more natural advanced pass rusher at this moment, right? When you're talking about hand usage and counters and knowing how to set offensive tackles up, it's natural to him. And you can see how fluid he is in his movements. He's not a rigid mover. He's a very fluid guy. Like I thought that, like, let's take somebody from last year to add context, like a Chop Robinson, right? Chop was very straight line, explosive, right? Like getting upfield, right? Princely has the hip fluidity and the smoothness to be able to cross the offensive tackle's face and spin moves and string. He can, we talk about running backs, right? Being able to string moves together without stumbling, right? Without hesitation, without having to take a pause. He's the same way. He can just get together, string pass rush moves, and I like the upside of that. I think just with him, because we've been talking about him for years now, right? Like I think this is what I think it was 2022 draft was when he was first eligible. So we're talking about 2-3 years later. This is a guy that's draft fatigue, right? I think that's what it is. It's draft fatigue, but you can clearly see because I don't know all of the Atlanta Falcons draft picks right off the top of your head, but if they go get somebody and then get him in the second round, you're like, okay, you got a potential chance to win, right? Like an advanced guy's played a lot of football, in the SEC, like he knows what he's doing. He can get home to the quarterback. There's some guys in his draft, but I think we say that we think he can get to the quarterback, but Princely over the span of 3 years has proven I know how to get back to the quarterback.
100%. Yeah, he like that's the best word to put it, Keith. Best way to put it. He's proven. And you think about just like I said, back into that first round, man. The Baltimore Ravens at 27, Detroit Lions at 28. Honestly, the Washington Commanders at 29 as well as another team. We know that the Eagles, now Nolan Smith has turned it on late in the season, and I think he's going to be one of their guys even going into next year. But you're losing Josh Sweat. If you're the Eagles, you can put a Princely in that slot. Now you have Nolan Smith and Princely with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, and you just had why blitz? You know what I mean? For what? I'm not blitzing. I have that 4-man front. I think for him, he's a guy like I said, outside of and let me ask you this, Keith: is there a chance with a strong performance in Mobile that he jumps to being EDGE2 in this class, and not just being a late first, but maybe a mid-round first after Abdul Carter is off the board?
Ooh, that's tough, DP. And I'll say it depends on how I'm going to categorize Jalen Walker. That's my guy. Right? That's my guy. So,
good point.
If you want to throw Jalen out and put him in an entirely different bucket, right? And then we're dealing with the Princeleys, Nic Scourtons, James Pierce, right? We're dealing with that. Mike Green, maybe I see some people want to throw his name in the bucket for that. I think he can make a case. Yeah, like if he has a good performance out there, then he can clearly make a case to be like, no, I'm the most naturally gifted. I've done it in big time football. I've done it over a span of 2 to 3 years, right? I think he has the opportunity to make a strong case to he can leave there and say, why not me? Right? Y'all are just, like I said, the draft fatigue thing. But if I was the new hot name, the buzzy name, then people would be throwing me in first rounds.
And then when you factor in that, hey, you're also on. It's not like he's going to be the only legitimate edge rusher there. Like we talked about Nic Scourton.
Unless he's too old, right? Unless we say that, he's played 5 years of football, he played too old. Give me the guy that's 20. I don't.
Because he's got some good competition. We talked about Shamar Stewart the other week, Keith, and we'll see where he actually rushes from, because Texas A&M didn't make that clear of what he actually is as a prospect. But him, Nic Scourton, both our guy, Barron Sorrell from Texas is down there.
That's another one. Make some noise. Yep.
Yeah, like this edge rush group and D-line group is good, man. It's a good group. Jared Ivey, also one of his teammates from Ole Miss. RJ Oben, who we just saw for Notre Dame. Mike Green, who's going to be there. With this situation, like if he goes up there and has the best week, I definitely am walking out of there if I'm Princely and I'm pounding the chest. Like, why not me? Why not me as a top 15 pick? I'm here with my other counterparts, and I dominated the week. Like, man, if he has a Jermaine Johnson type of week, Keith, with already what his tape looks like and the proven ability and production and everything he's put on film, and he has a strong week in Mobile, I would not be afraid to draft him top 20. I would not be. And he's going to pass the physical thresh marks, 6'4", 255 pounds. He's done it in the SEC. Like, what more would you want from an edge rusher with his production, his body type, his athleticism, the bend and hip fluidity, the process that is successful? What else makes a first-round pick at edge outside of being Abdul Carter? You know what I mean? And being the next Micah Parsons or Von Miller or whatever the case may be, what else quantifies being the top 20 pick at edge? I don't know, Keith. Like, I think that this guy has a real strong chance to be that. And I'll pound the table for it if he has if he caps off his season with a strong week in Mobile next week.
Yep, I agree 100%. DP, we're going back to the SEC, but we're going to your neck of the woods, right? We'll be in those Carolinas, and we're going to South Carolina. We talk about edge rusher, one of my favorite guys, a football player, tough, gritty, physical, Mr. Kyle Kennard. We're going to have that conversation about him and what he can do at the Senior Bowl. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. One of my favorite memories was attending a Panthers game, with my friends. The energy, the excitement, all of it was unforgettable. Now Gametime has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Gametime Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Guys, I know this, the same way I know. Taking a party of 3, 4, 5, even 6 people and trying to find seats that are consecutive, it's a headache. You're going through thousands of tickets, but that's why Gametime Picks exists, because it removes the fluff. Guys, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Growing your small business in 2025 comes down to how well you can hire. And let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights. That's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you find and identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes down to hiring. Small businesses are wearing so many hats right now, a lot of hats. So every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using the data you won't find anywhere else, from unique skills and interests to the connections you share. LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high quality candidates. Hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every dayer. 6'5", 255 pounds, South Carolina defensive end edge rusher Kyle Kennard. Keith had an outstanding season this year with 9-10 sacks, 6 QB hits, 23 pressures. He had 3 forced fumbles on the season. This dude just got after it, and I believe he started his career, it was at Georgia Tech.
At Georgia Tech. Yeah, he started at Georgia Tech. Yep.
Georgia
I think
Tech,
him and Jared Ivey was at Georgia Tech together.
And that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's crazy. To have both of those dudes on your D-line and they both go and ball out in the SEC, that's nuts. And then for him, like, his overall pass rush win rate was 13%, but on true drop back sets, Keith, it jumped to 20, 6 sacks, 6 QB hits, 11 pressures. When it's just pin your ears back and get to the quarterback. Keith, I've seen rumblings. I've seen people say, I don't know if he's a true 3-down edge. I think he's a DPR. Keith, what do you say? If someone comes up to you, the Senior Bowl, said, do you think Kyle Kennard's a DPR? What's your response to that?
Why wouldn't he be a 3-down guy? I just, when I watch him, I think he's tough and physical, right? Like I think he can do that. Like when I watch, Kyle Kennard is one of those football players, DP, that like I just feel like he's on the line of scrimmage and he's growling at people, right? Like I don't like that. I don't get soft from him. So if you're talking about first and second down, maybe there's some technical things that he can clean up, right? But when I watch him, he is a guy. He's a high collision football player, right? Like he looks like it hurts to go against him, right? That like he has very strong hands, powerful punches. If anything, it would be like, okay, maybe he's a little rigid in some movements, right? Like because he's so strong and so muscle bound, like you like to say. But no, I think he can play all 3 downs if that's what you want. I think he can play hand in the ground 4-3 defensive end, but I also think he's probably a explosive 3-4 outside linebacker that wins with probably more power than just speed. Honestly, if you want to, like, two guys I think of that I put him in the same box with, and that's Jared Verse and that's Jermaine Johnson, guys that we've seen in the Senior Bowl, right? These guys that are 6'4", 250 pounds that have that type of play style to them where there's strength to their game, right? Like there's power to the game. So I definitely could see him setting the edge in the run game. I mean, you tell me, do you see any concerns about him playing on the edge and stopping the run? Like,
No, not really. I've seen that narrative, and I'm like, are you? And we got to get the verified measurements of like his arm length and stuff like that. But his strength, like at the point of attack, when I've seen him, is good. Like I remember watching the LSU game, and he had a crossover move on Will Campbell, where he like jab stepped him and kind of euroed back inside. And just the power of his rip move, I think, put Will down on the ground. You know what I mean? And he got into the backfield, and I think he sacked Garrett Nussmeier, things of that nature. I think the main thing was like I think the processing at times in the run game can use some work and everything like that. You know, but I think that's more so a coaching thing, like getting to the film room. Hey, just like,
and that's what
he's aggressive. Like, so I think the over aggressiveness gets him in trouble at times. But I'd rather tell a dog to heel than trying to tell him to sick him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's the part too that he can benefit from is like, okay, what position is he playing? And then just putting him at one spot, I think that would help him, right? Like with understanding, diagnosing different run blocks, right? Like you don't play a wham block how you play a kick out block. You don't play a down block, right? How you play a reach block. Like just different things like that. I think that will make it easier for him, because when you're trying to learn all of these different blocks at 3-4 different positions, of course that can be a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think with his pass rush ability, he showcased like you said, there is some rigidness, but he has a solid dip and rip move to get around the edge. But his hand usage and upper body strength, it's impressive. Like his ability to knock down and clear hands and like disengage from offensive tackles trying to latch on, because that, a lot of times, depending on who it is, like we watch not so much like with Joel. Joel's just he's just like a planet. You know what I mean? It's just hard to get around Joel at 6'9", 325 pounds, wherever he was, right? With Olu was the hand clamp. Like when Olu, he could, like I was watching him even this year with the Jets before he got hurt. If you got a little bit of push against Olu, once he latched his hands and dropped his anchor, the rep was over. Like he had that upper body strength. You know that guys like that, you got to get their hands off you quick so that they don't gain control of the rep. And he does a good job of that. So when I look at him, man, I just say this is a guy. I got like a 3rd round pick, Keith. I think the testing will be big for him. Like how fast is he? Not the 40, but more so that 10-yard split. How explosive is he off the ball? Things of that nature. The loop drill to see how fluid his hips are. But I think the one-on-ones with him, yeah, it's going to be a lunch pail, hard hat type of situation, Keith, for these offensive linemen. Because this dude's is going to be a battering ram, in my opinion.
Yeah, DP, I have him as a 2nd round grade, but it's guys like him and just these 3 edge rushers that we talked about that I think this where the value when we come into talking about drafting prospects becomes tricky in this draft, right? Because they're all good players. But I think if you ask me to have one pick at pick 18, or can I have 2 picks at the top of the 2nd round, I'll probably take 2 picks at the top of the 2nd round. Because if I could grab, like we said, use Atlanta for example again, right? If I could grab a Kyle Kennard and Princely Umanmielen in back-to-back picks in the 2nd round, then I feel really good about that, right? Like something's gonna work, right? Like I feel good about that. Or you don't know which, like, because all of these guys I feel like are in the same bucket, right? And we'll come out with our rankings and drop our rankings, but some of these players I feel like are in the same bucket. I think back to that 2022 draft when it was the Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Trayvon Walker, right? Like I think those guys were of one tier, and then it was like another tier, and then another tier, right? Like I think that for the edge rush group, like you said, it's Abdul Carter, and then now it's like, okay, where does everybody list off from there? I don't think there's a consensus top 3, so I'm looking at it and I'm like talking draft strategy, and I'm like, hey, if I like all of these guys, then let y'all pick one, and then I'll go with the 2 that's left. But I'm willing to potentially trade down and walk out with 2 premier or guys that I feel like could be premier edge rushers in this draft class.
No, 100%. I think the Senior Bowl with the talent we have at offensive tackle and offensive line, and the talent that we have at the defensive line position, there's going to be some money made. There's going to be some money lost, Keith, in those one-on-ones, because it's a lot of talent. It's a lot of, like I said, whether it's Kennard, Princely, Nic Scourton, like these guys have the ability to get back there to the quarterback. Now let's see the process. You know what I mean? Let's see that up close process against different guys. Like every rep, every time you walk up, you're going to face a different dude 9 times out of 10. So it's like one guy's maybe more athletic, but he doesn't have the anchor or the upper body strength to handle your bull rush. One guy, like Ariante Ursary, is powerful, right? And you might question the foot speed overall. Can you get around him? Because you're probably not going to get through him. Can you sell it outside and get him and push him off the spot and get back inside? How quickly are you winning? Is it a 3-second sack, or 3.5 seconds? Is it taking you too long to get back there? Right. Or are you a 2.5 second guy where by that second step, you halfway upfield, and now you got that tackle exactly where you want him to be? I'm super excited to see this edge rush group, Keith, and watch these guys perform in these one-on-ones. Like I said, Nic Scourton, Princely, Umanmielen, Kyle Kennard. Yeah, these guys got some big-time opportunities. And again, with that edge group that we have, whoever dominates, if anybody dominates, one guy dominates the Senior Bowl from the edge rush group, that's going to be the guy going into the combine with the most buzz and the most stock like his stock has risen the most out of the entire class.
Yep, I agree with that, DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listen is greatly appreciated. Here I am, Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Again, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. We appreciate our everydayers here. Guys, listen, have a great weekend. Next time you hear from us, we will be in Mobile, boots on ground, getting ready to preview just the entire event. Sleepers, guys with the most to prove and most on the line. We'll talk about all that on next week's show. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.